Okay, attention class. Attention to the class. It is now 5 hours and 41 minutes into today's broadcast, and we are about to commence the analysis and thorough study of none other than Serral's video games. So, for people who don't know, Serral is from Finland, and in Finland it is very cold. And as we all know, in cold places you need to wear a jacket. So, given that that is the case, we're going to study Serral's video games in this tournament run of WCS Valencia. How did he do it? How did he win the whole championship? Is it simply because of his cold weather jackets? Or is there something else going on? We don't really know. So let's crack open these replays. We'll go series by series. This will be Serral versus Scarlett. I have to download the patch and watch these offline, unfortunately. There was a patch on Tuesday, and one of the decisions that Blizzard made with Legacy of the Void was every time they have a kind of major to minor patch go through, they shuffle a bunch of code, which breaks a lot of what would be map hacks. So this is one of the consequences of them going for that decision. I think it's worth it. Just a little inconvenience watching the stuff offline, but having less hacking on the ladder is a good thing for sure. So we've got Serral and Scarlett here. This is Redshift. This is ZVZ. Scarlett is a Canadian Zerg, very strong. I think she's the only one to take 2 games off of Serral in a series. So you've got Overlords, you've got drones, 16 hatch on the gold base, 16 hatch on the gold base. So I think we can safely say, if both of them did a 16 hatch on the gold base, that's a pretty good build on this map for ZVZ. And they go for 18 gas, 17 pool. So this is a variety on the hatch gas pool opening. And it's mirror build, so no one's really done anything to distinguish their play in a great way. Okay, gas is mining, 3 out of 3, 3 out of 3. Minimum saturation is reached in the main base for both players. And we've got 6 drones pulled. We've got 8 drones pulled. So this is the first difference in their openings. Serral pulled 8, Scarlett pulled 6. Okay, 2 queens for both players. It looks like Scarlett's Overlord is a little bit later. So Serral's ahead in the supply creation department. Overlord here spotting this. Overlord here spotting this. Very, very similar across the board. Ling speed. Oh! So Serral's going for an Evo, and a Lair, and a Gas. Scarlett's going for Ling speed. So we have a Ling Bane opener off of the same 16 hatch build versus a Lair Evo Roach opener. The advantage of this opening that Scarlett's going for is you can usually secure a faster third base, which is a way to increase your larva income moving forward. So Serral still only has 2 queens. 2 queens, 2 queens. 2 lings and a queen here. I'm not a super expert. These are obviously 2 players who are way better than me at the game. But if I had to guess at it, Serral's build seems a little bit more risky, where he's trying to get into lair tech pretty fast. He doesn't have a fantastic way of controlling this ramp with only 2 queens, and there's no creep, but he did stop droning pretty early. So he's got 25 drones, which is a very low worker count, and he's already making roaches. Speed roaches and stuff. Oh my goodness! There's a spine crawler moved over here, and then she's using the... Wow. Look at this. For people who don't know, Banelings deal AoE damage, which means area of effect. So if the Baneling blows up here, and there's workers here or here, it'll kill those, which is interesting. That's interesting, isn't it? Okay. Well, 3 drones were killed. Was it enough? There are lings here. Lings can trade decently against roaches before +1 is done. And it's not done yet. Ling's running over here. Uh-oh. That queen's dead. These drones are dead. These are dead. Where are his roaches? Oh, they're here. Yeah, so I think he's just dead. And if this is the first match of the series, this sets the tone for how things are going to go. Scarlett is someone who has a very obvious and well-known table image, if we can borrow a poker term. People are like, oh, Scarlett, 4th base and 80 drones. That's what she likes to do. So when she mixes in an aggressive build like this, a lot of times it looks more effective than it might be if it was a random Zerg doing it. Because it's a fairly simple opening, right? She was making a bunch of Ling Bane off like 21 or so drones, which is pretty common. Serral can attack in here, but he doesn't have anything to sustain his production. He has 4 drones. He's dead in the water. Well, he's dead here. I guess there's not water on this map. So yeah, you live and learn. GG. Okay. So, Serral lost the first game. That's a bummerooski. Table image. To describe the term, your table image is the way that the other people sitting at the table perceive your playstyle. So the basic range for a poker player would be the most aggressive kind of person at the table to the most defensive. StarCraft has a similar comparison you can make. Scarlett, generally speaking, is not going to be perceived as super aggressive, but that has changed some recently. She was in GSL, not this season, but I think it was last season or the season before, and she beat Innovation, who's God tier player, and she cheesed the ever-loving crap out of him. It was like cheese after all in after all in. And Innovations is a really smart player, and he's really good, so why did he lose? He was cutting a lot of those corners, kind of like Serral did in this last game, where he's just really thinly going from one phase of the game to the next, and there are some really effective all-ins that are crafted to really strike and punish someone who does that. So cool. Some dynamic approach to the video games. This is another match. So Dreamcatcher is a little bit more standard than Redshift. Let's see what the builds are here. Scarlett versus Serral. Both players droning up. Hatch first on 17. Scarlett took her hatch on 16. The main difference there is a 16 hatch gets more HP on the building itself. So if someone goes for 12 pool expand, their main objective is to snipe the hatch and then run home. This makes it a little bit harder. There's more of a buffer of health on the base. Serral's not doing that. You can still defend it without it, but this makes it a little bit easier on yourself. Cool. So hatch cast pool for both, just a slight difference in terms of when it goes down. So 2 queens for Serral, 2 queens for Scarlett, production tab. Serral's going for 2 lings. Scarlett has not made any lings yet. This isn't too strange. Especially since the first Overlord saw that there was a hatch first. So Scarlett's going for Lair and Evo, and then 2 more gases. So skipping link speed entirely, just going straight into roaches. It's a little bit better on this map. Oh, it's melee. It's better on this map because you have high ground at your base, and there's creep at the high ground. So the last map, the high ground that Scarlett was running up to attack Serral, Serral didn't have creep spread there, and he wasn't going to be able to have creep spread there unless he made a third queen, which pretty heavily impacts your build. Scarlett does have a third queen here. This could be 2-base Muta. If I was Serral and I scouted this, this looks like Roach to me, but there's no Roach Warren. Serral's got range attack, Roach Warren, double gas, lair. So he's going Roaches, and Scarlett's probably going to go Mutas. Probably. Injecting those bases. The Queen's having fun, shooting Overlords. Nothing super impactful has happened yet in terms of damage. This is kind of the phase where the two players are selecting their openers, and then you're going to see how they relate. So Melee's going. I would guess that she floods Lings around the time when that's going to finish. It's not necessary, but that could be a timing that could be a hit. You can catch players off guard sometimes if you expect Roaches and you don't have any defense for mass Ling. But Serral's going to have +1 Roaches really fast, so he should be fine. Third base goes down for Scarlett. Did he get Ling speed? No. So they both skipped Ling speed in the early stage, but now Scarlett's getting it later on. Range is almost done, more Roaches. I think playing against Muta is a lot harder than playing Muta at most levels of skill. At the highest level of skill, Muta can be comparatively more rare because players know how to use Roach Queen Nidus effectively to punish it, and can also max out safely. You have stuff like Spore placement that a lot of Zergs aren't really that good at building placement and awareness of their layout. So cool, bunch of Lings running around. Muta production begins, +2 melee, +1 air attack from the Spire for Scarlett. Serral's making triple queen in response. And it's pretty noteworthy that he's not attacking. Sometimes the player who's not going Muta sees that it's going to be Muta and says, I need to deal damage, which isn't necessarily the case. You can think about the current game state, which is the Roaches are going to be stronger on the ground than the Lings are, but if the Roaches are forward, the Mutas are going to be able to kill them over time. The flip side is Mutas are pretty bad at a 200 supply max out in a direct army fight. These are mostly finesse units. They want to be flying around and basically shooting at stuff that can't shoot back. So Overlords, infrastructure that's exposed, like an extractor that's exposed, any stray units that aren't with the core group of army, or just ground stuff that can't shoot back. So what Serral can try to do here is get to 200 supply with a really, really tough army, and then the Muta count will effectively not be able to do anything. 9 Mutas and that count's going up. Bane speed. The melee and Bane speed keep Scarlett safe from Hydra attacks right now. That's part of why just sending a bunch of Hydras is generally ill-advised. Speed Banes are super good against Hydras, even if your Hydras have an attack upgrade. So he's moving the Spores up. He has 6 Queens, 64 drones, 63, so it's pretty even economically. 27 Lings to 8. Making a Ravager here, there. Lings running around. Scarlett has the earlier 4th base. And she has a lot more supply. Part of the reason for that is Serral's going to have a really supply-dense army with Lurkers. Where's his Lurker done? Yep, it's almost done. Muta's flipping and flapping around. Oh, so Scarlett's going to try and attack Serral, maybe before the Lurkers are ready. Queen's need to transfuse. He missed a couple there. Yeah, this is a really, really tight attack. This is just before the lurkers are a possibility. Cool. And he's dead again. Wow. Down 2 games, Serral. She's beating you up. What's your plan? What are you gonna do? If you're gonna be the champion of Valencia, you're gonna have to do better than that. It was a very, very small opening. Like, we're talking maybe 6 seconds. If that hits 6 seconds later, he has lurkers done. And he defends the speed bane super easily, and the mutas can't swing in. So that was very, very, very tight. Very tight. But that's how StarCraft matches are won, right? It's kind of like fencing. Just one little slip up, and you get stabbed, and you're dead. Rip. It's not forgiving at all. ZVZ especially can feel that way. It's very volatile. Probably because both players can make Banelinks, and Banelinks are very volatile units. And Zerg is pretty squishy too, in general. So now we've got Game 3 on Darkness Sanctuary. Big map and cross spawn. So this has a couple different consequences. One of the consequences of this being a 4-player map and cross spawn is that it's really hard to get scouting and know exactly what the opponent is doing. Another one is it's pretty hard to deal damage. Any ground rush attack is going to take a really long time to walk across the map and start hitting your opponent's stuff. I really like going for Carapace and then Ling Speed, and then using 3 queens and a spine to defend my 2 bases and taking a 3rd behind it. Just because it gives you a really good setup to defend cheese, but also creates a really good edge with that upgrade. Double queen. Production tab, we've got Lings coming out. Ling Speed. Serral is... oh, he's doing the Carapace build. Sweet. So Carapace before Ling Speed. That's Carapace with the first 150 gas and a 3rd queen. And then he's going to take Ling Speed next, I would guess. If I had to guess. Do I have to guess? 98 gas, 100 gas, boom, Ling Speed. And then keeps 3 on the gas. Cool. Scarlett's going for a Bane Nest and a 3rd. This is more of that kind of normal hatch gas pool, Ling Speed Bane Nest and a 3rd build. The most standard of all builds. Spine Crawler. And this is a situation where it's hard for Scarlett to scout and see what's going on, because Serral has queens to block the ramp, which hides his Evo. And even canceled the spine, wow. Cool, so he's making a bunch of Lings here, when he had right around 2 base mineral saturation. These are Carapace Lings. And then he's going for a range attack and a lair. 2 gases, Roach Warren, and a 3rd base. So step 1 was saturate 2 bases with Queen Spine, and then flood some Carapace Lings to take map control. And then now he's gearing up into the +1 ranged business. The cool thing about a Carapace opening as opposed to a melee opening is the Carapace upgrade also benefits your Roaches and your Queens, not just your Lings. If you're going for melee, then it's only Lings, Banes, Ultras, and Broodlings that get the benefit. So we've got injects here. Lair's almost done. 3rd base is up. He's got a queen. Oh, he had a queen close to there to inject. So Serral has the advantage in Ling count. Oh, now he doesn't. It's even. 32-32. Scarlett's ahead in drones. Also ahead in queens. 3rd base is up. Cool, Roach Speed. Roach speed. Lings running around. Serral's really good at picking off a few lings here and there. A lot of times you'll get a small skirmish where some of your lings fight some of their lings, and if you have more for that little skirmish, you take a good trade, and then you can pull back before the banelings get there. He does that a lot. And there are a lot of those little openings, even at the highest level of play, because you're kind of going between macroing and addressing your army. You can't look at everything all at once. So Scarlett has 63 drones here. This is more of a characteristic Scarlett game, like when you think of her approach to the Zergs. She tends to play really, really drone heavy. So he has a bunch of roaches coming now. She's going to make lings and banes and spines. The mutas are trying to clean up these roaches. And he's going for the natural here, which I think says a lot about the game state. The decision to go here is basically him saying, I stopped making workers early enough that I'm not trying to kill your third and get ahead economically. I'm trying to get on top of your forces and kill your stuff and win the game, pretty much outright. He has the option of this target and this target, and if you can control the natural in a ZVZ, you can kill the units from the main that are kind of running over, and you can kill the units from the third as they're running over. So this is kind of the throat of a Zerg player's setup. For a Terran, it's usually in the main, where they have all their production. If you get on top of that, you win. Whereas in ZVZ, it's usually controlling the center of their territory, because then they can't really muster their forces and get a big clump of stuff to stop you. So these roaches just trade really well against the Ling Bane. She doesn't have any upgrades on the Lings, so they're pretty bad against these +1 roaches. And behind this, he's making queens. He's taking burrow. He's not droning. So this is fully committal. We joke about whether or not something is all in. This is all in. Killing a bunch of drones. Lots of mining time is being lost. So now he's ahead in workers. And these queens are gaining value. Energy units gain value over time by making a bunch of queens. He's building a sort of resource that isn't money. It's not minerals or gas, but it's energy, which can be used to transfuse stuff, which kind of indirectly counts as minerals and gas, depending on what they transfuse. By him continuing to make lings, this prevents Scarlett from re-droning the losses. It forces her into making more lings to defend the lings. Lings and banes. And the lings and banes are going to be less efficient because they don't have upgrades. I guess now they have melee. Melee versus Carapace. It's still good though. Still good stuffs. And he's pulling the attention over here and getting the nice in the main. It's cute. This little ling burrowed in the corner to provide vision, which is awesome. Mutas could kill an overlord, but you would need an overseer to be able to kill this ling. And the queen's coming out. And here we see the relationship. This is 8 queens. Oh no, 7 queens. 7 queens versus a lot more than that in mutas, 14 mutas. But the queens have a bunch of transfused. And they don't really trade the best against queens. These queens are 1-1. And then he had lings and stuff over here. GG. Yeah, so this was a very aggressive game from him. The Carapace ling, but then he basically turned on the jets at 44 drones, and he didn't drone anymore. The third base was just for larva. Roaches and roaches. Lings, roaches, queens, lings, roaches. Queen. Lings. Serral Anger. Couple of good Bane hits there. Yeah, but that's one of the things that is really different from our games as enthusiasts and semi-pros is there are a lot more mistakes in the Ling Bane stage that don't really happen at this level. They can happen, but it's very, very rare when someone makes a really big slip up and loses a bunch of Lings to a Bane. Aggressive cross spawn too. Yeah, and we've talked about Nidus some in that the value of your Nidus is proportionate to the distance that it covers. So cross-spawn Darkness Sanctuary is probably the longest range Nidus you can possibly do. Because there's no way in heck the queens are going to walk all the way across the map in that scenario. But they can get a little underground teleportation system, which is cool. 16 hatch for both players. So like I was saying on Dreamcatcher, this allows the players to get a little bit more HP on the hatch and be safer against stuff like 12 pool. 12 pool. Well. 12 pool. 12 pool. Should queens have stim? I think they're just beautiful the way they are. What's up, Richie? What's up, dude? Oh, we recorded your Interstellar Neuro thing yesterday. It got muted in your VOD because of the music, but if you want it, we could send it to you and you could put it on YouTube if you wanted to. It would be monetized by the music maker, of course, but at least it would still be out there. I want to show it on my stream at some point, if that's cool with you. Okay. So we've got queens, Ling speed for both, Bane Nest for Serral, and Scarlett is skipping a Bane Nest. Uh-oh. Skipping a Bane Nest. Why would someone skip a Bane Nest moving into the 3-base stage? Well, because they want to get into fast roaches. So what Scarlett's trying to do here, she's trying to overmake Lings in this phase so that the other player can't safely make Banes. So this allows you to control the flow by having a bunch of Lings, and then if Serral makes Lings, sorry, if he makes Banes, that reduces his Ling count, and she can jump on top of the Lings. It's not a perfect approach, but you can kind of see what the aim is here. But the thing with Serral is he's not making any micro mistakes. His Banelings are staying on move command, and he manually detonated that. So yeah, that was basically perfect control from him. As close to perfect as you can practically get. So that didn't really pay off for Scarlett. She didn't kill the base. She didn't really take great trades. Serral got the better end of things there. And then he's going around scouting. He sees the Roach Warren. Which, these Roaches aren't going to be super good. We talked about the +1 melee from the Evo Chamber before, and how +1 Roaches are really good against Lings, but Roaches without upgrades, they're not super, super great. They're okay if you have a big clump of them. But Scarlett's going for a Roach Bane all in here. This base is not getting saturated. She has 29 drones, and she's going all units. All units all the way. 10 Roaches. Serral has Lings. He has Overlord spread here, so this is the first Overlord that's going to see the attack. Once he sees this, he can pretty safely assume that it's all in. Because if you wanted to play a Roach macro game, you probably wouldn't want to trade these out, and they're not going to trade super well against mass numbers of Ling Bane. But she has a Bane Nest, so Scarlett can go Roach Bane. And the Banes can protect these Roaches, and hopefully allow them to deal some pretty good damage. But Serral's been making a lot of his own Roaches off just a better economy. Scarlett's third is injected, but Serral's just going to have a lot more supply worth of stuff. And he gets Defender's Advantage, which means his reinforcements are out sooner, and he can fight with his queens, whereas Scarlett cannot. These engagements are always really messy. And that's the nature of ZVZ, right? Yeah, super decisive hold. One rule you can follow when you're macroing up in ZVZ is once you're advancing past the Ling Bane stage and you're in the Roach stage, you can spend your gas into Roaches and your minerals into drones off of like 2 to 3 gases, and you're going to be pretty safe against attack like that. The only downside is if the opponent plays super greedy and just makes only drones and gets tech, sometimes you can get in a bad spot. But in those situations, you can just send your Roaches. So you got some desperation Lings. Not a single drone has been built beyond that 29. So this is just hanging on for dear life. But Serral has 46 workers. And he has some dedicated defense, so he's not even going to leave an opening. Not even going to lose a queen. And this is the kind of match where the chances of Scarlett winning are now very close to 0, but she still has the infrastructure to make stuff, and it's possible that someone will make a mistake, make a misstep, lose a bunch of Lings to a Bane, something like that. It's unlikely, but one of the other things is she doesn't know exactly how many workers Serral has. So this is part of where the heart of a champion can come in, and you don't GG out from hallucinated void rays because you think that you're screwed when actually you're super far ahead. Just kind of building the habit. See, look at this. How many players would have run their Lings into those 2 Banes? I would say most of us. Most of us would have just lost all those Lings. One of Serral's biggest strengths is his ability to assert himself without committing unless there's a clear opening. A lot of people are kind of mentally just gonna go for it, even if the opponent has enough defense. He'll pull back. As soon as it's an unfavorable trade, he'll pull back. There's no desperation. He's got that even keel, very balanced. So Scarlett has droned up here, but she's really far behind in Roaches and down to 1 queen. So disadvantage in larva, disadvantage in Roach count, pretty even on economy, but there's also no Evo chamber. No Evo chamber for ranged attack. Serral has a lair. Serral's working on +2. And now we're just kind of watching the inevitability of him having way too many Roaches. He did a Bane run by there and killed a bunch of drones. Those can be pretty good. It's important to have Overlord vision outside your base, so you can see those coming in. Da-da-dum. More army better upgrades. And that's game. That is the game. You just got called a hacker because you 13-12 against a random player, and they got Protoss and tried to cannon rush. They're very upset. I'm upset that this happened. You use burrowed Lings for vision, and you got accused of hacking. There is some just luck in the game as well, where if you open with a certain build, you have the frontier of everything the opponent could open with, and some stuff is better for you, some stuff is worse for you, some stuff is just terrible for you, and that's something you have to accept when you go for the build. If you go for a cheesy build, and the opponent goes for a super defensive safe build, maybe they do that every game. They always go super safe, which has its own downside, But against your build, it's going to be a really effective counter. That's just the nature of how openers relate to each other. Doesn't mean that they're cheating. Some people, they just lost to 13-12 like 8 times in a row. And it's like, nope, I'm going to 16 pool queen spine and then expand. And then you get to their base and they have a queen and a spine already done. And you're like, what the hell? What the hell? Doesn't necessarily mean they cheated. They just don't want to die into 13-12 again. Okay, hatch gas pool. Hatch gas pool. The build of the hour. I don't really think I've seen Serral early pool in ZVZ. Like 12 pool or 13-12 or anything. I've seen him go 17 pool against Terran and do the 6 lings to go harass and stuff. But yeah, 12 pool and 13-12, 14-14. Even like a 17 gas, 16 pool Ling Bane all in. Don't really see him do. His approach for ZVZ, and to an extent the other matchups as well, is about him opening really, really safe and solid in a way that is not exploitable. And then the opponent tries to do something to him, some attack or whatnot. He defends it perfectly, and then he's in the driver's seat for the rest of the game. And then he starts being assertive, taking initiatives, that kind of stuff. So he pulled 2 workers off gas this time, which delays his Bane nest by quite a bit. He sees Roach Evo and some queens. Scarlett's going for +1 ranged and a lair. He made 6 lings. He's taking an Evo. He's making drones now, refill the gas. He's up by 2 drones. And he's making drones and a queen. Probably just a 3rd queen to inject the 3rd. So he has the larva advantage. Scarlett has the upgrade advantage and the tech advantage right now. What upgrade is he going to get from this? Ranged attack, and then a Roach Warren after. So the reason this Roach Warren is later than the Evo is because he doesn't want to make roaches until he absolutely has to. He would prefer to drone up a whole bunch. So maybe you get like, I don't know, 50 to 55 drones before he makes roaches, if I had to guess. He has these lings delaying the drone that would go to the 3rd. He's watching this wall off. He wants to see if there's going to be a 2nd upgrade. Lost a ling there. Not a big deal. So now he's making roaches at around 46. 46 workers making the roaches. 2 base saturation is 44. So this is just a little bit above 2 base saturation. He's making some more drones. This is what I mentioned before, the spend your gas into tech and roaches and then spend your minerals into drones kind of approach. Off of 3 gases, pretty good. Ling's checking out this 3rd. So Scarlett has to attack here and get something done. The 3rd base was pretty late. She has 4 gases. She just canceled the drone. That's weird. That's weird. Roaches are here. Serral has nice overlord spread. He can see this far lane here. This is the first move out spot, and then this is the other one. So we can see all the different areas that roaches could be traveling around. Scarlett has the edge of maneuver with roach speed upgrade. Serral is just now starting his. His +1 finished. Scarlett's going for Carapace and range 2. So a clear upgrade lead. 54 drones at 57. Serral has 19 roaches to 9. So he's pretty far ahead in terms of just raw roach count and drones. He's pretty far behind in upgrades. Upgrades don't really make a massive difference until you get to around 200 supply. The more units you have, the more precious upgrades become. So for this stage, I mean, yes, he's behind in upgrades. Contaminate on the Evo. Now more behind in upgrades. It's not that big of a deal. This relationship here, the worker count, I think is the most important edge in the game of all of them. Drones and larvae. So she's going to try and go for an attack here. This is before the upgrades are finished, which is kind of interesting, maybe even questionable. The queen's here too. So maybe just posturing here with a little contain. His roach speed is done, +2 is going. Cool skirmish. His group beats the red roaches. Has a spine, making some ravagers. And yeah, just pretty big supply lead. 14 supply up. Some of that is in drones. Alright, he has a high ground. High ground and a spine and queen support. Not missing any transfuses. In general, it's best to retreat to dodge corrosive bile. I talked about this on stream yesterday, and the reason for that is if you move forward, you're move commanding into attacking units, which is bad, because that means you're taking damage without dealing damage. Whereas if you retreat, you're dodging the bile and the opponent has to move command to your move command, as opposed to attacking your move command. Queen's here the third. He's going for a fourth. And yep, he's just ahead. He's not attacking though, which is pretty interesting. I have thrown so many games from this kind of scenario where you have a better worker count, you're on the same number of bases, and then you just go across the map, and by the time you get there, the opponent has a few more roaches and you lose the fight, and then they push back and win. And it's very sad. So this is a situation where he's ahead, but he's not ahead enough to just push across and win outright. He's playing it safe. He's moving into the next things. Moving into the fourth base, taking a Carapace upgrade, taking a Lurker Den, taking Hydra upgrades, speed first before range. Cool. Cool, dude. Fourth base with the gas. Shaboom. Okay, so now Scarlett droned up. Like 64. Cool stuff. Serral has Overlord speed. Look at how fast this Overseer goes. I guess it's just going to keep it there. Okay. RoachRavager. RoachRavager. Roach versus Roach. These situations are really fun. Where it's not just one mass Roach versus mass Roach, but you've got a bunch of small skirmishes. It's like there's a battle over here. She's got Burrow. There's a battle over here. But now the tunnely stuff is running around. So he's got spines, which is nice. Up. 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 Oh, is he just gonna go for it? He's just going for it. This is gonna be hardcore. Roaches over here, RoachRavager over here, RoachRavager over there, RoachRavager Lurker over here. Serral is ahead in supply. He's losing the drones. He lost his fourth base. These queens are getting some damage done. Queen Hydra. Queen Hydra versus the roaches. RoachRavager Lurker. Drones being pulled. Queen shooting stuff. Overlords flying back and forth. Burrowed roaches going into the main. Queen Hydra chasing up here. Overseer going into the main. RoachRavager taking out this third base. Drones burrowed. Burrowed to survive. Ravagers dropping the biles. Lurker unburrowed. Overseer RoachRavager on the right side. Burrowed RoachRavager. Over here on the right side for the red. RoachRavager here at the third base. Burrowed roaches in the main, cleaned up by the Overseer Roach Hydra Queen. RoachRavager, Lurker, Overseer, Overlord, RoachRavager, Roach, Burrow, RoachRavager. Roaches coming over here, more roaches, Roach Hydra. 199 supply to 146 supply, Roach Hydra, Lurker, RoachRavager, Roach, Overseer, Roach Overlord, Ravager. Got some extra Oversight Overseers here, RoachRavager, Burrow. Corrosive Bile on the Lurker. Lurker's unburrow. Retreating RoachRavager against RoachRavager. Roach Hydra, Overseer. Drones unburrowed. Going back to work, mining from this third base that was destroyed, being rebuilt. RoachRavager, Overseer, Overlord. Mass Ravager here, Burrow, RoachRavager. Against RoachRavager, Hydra, Queen, Spine, Changeling. Creep Spread, fourth base is going back up for Serral. RoachRavager, 49 drones, 39 drones. Queen's over here, idle at the natural expansion, lost in the chaos of battle, confused about what to do. Without purpose in the world, but still RoachRavager. Burrow, Roach, Changeling. Mass Changeling here, going to sit on the ramp, block all the units coming from the main base. RoachRavager, fourth base. Fourth base, Overlords. These Overlords patrolling to dodge the Corrosive Bile from the RoachRavager Ravagers. Mass Corrosive Bile. Scarlett has a bunch of Ravagers, 10 Ravagers. Only takes 4 Ravagers to Corrosive Bile and Overlords, so you got to have 10 Ravagers and Overlords with Overlord speed patrolling. Hydra's taking out this Overseer, Mass Changeling, RoachRavager, Lurker, Hydra. Kind of up here, Overseer coming around the left side, double Overseer. One of these has full energy, contaminate as possible. Lurker's burrowed, RoachRavager, Ravager, Corrosive Bile. Corrosive Bile's on the Ravagers. RoachRavager, Hydra, Lurker running around over here on this left side. RoachRavager taking out these roaches. The change is up here. Lurker's coming out for Scarlett. RoachRavager, Hydra. Moving over here by the third base, Corrosive Bile. Corrosive Bile on the floor from these Ravagers. Ravagers trying to get the Corrosive Bile. Double Lurker here. Lurker unburrow, Burrow. Lurker Burrow. These drones, they're trying to run away from this third base, going over the fourth base, up and mining. Up and mining for Scarlett. RoachRavager, Corrosive Bile, Burrow, Roach, Hydra. Overseer versus the RoachRavager, Corrosive Bile and the Changeling, taking out those Changelings. 57 drones, 42 drones. These queens finally have a purpose, going over this fourth base. Inject Creep Spread, Roach going on this fourth side. Fourth base side, top side, right side. Lurker, Roach Hydra, RoachRavager. And over here we have RoachRavager, Changelings here. These roaches chasing away these roaches over here on the right side. Roaches on the left side, Changelings go over here, red Changelings and blue Changelings. Everyone has Changelings. Serral has +2, +1 upgrades here. RoachRavager, Mass Tunnel Roaches going around here left side. Left side, triple spine here, fifth base going down for Serral. Serral's got Mass Patrol Overlord. Roach Hydra. These rocks still have not been killed, Burrow Roaches. But there's Overseer Roach here. Overseer Roach versus roaches that unburrowed, Burrow Roaches. Suddenly unburrowed roaches. Overlord's flying around, looking around. RoachRavager. Look at this roach. Okay, now it's RoachRavager Lurker. No, it's just Ravager Lurker, no roaches. A couple roaches. We've got more Roach Hydra Lurker over here on the left side. Overlord's all exposed. These Overlords are exposed. Oh, Serral has Burrow, Roach, and Tunnel Claws as well, RoachRavager. RoachRavager Changelings. Blue Changeling, red Changeling. Double Lurker here, Hydras. Taking control of this midfield, taking out these Overlords, RoachRavager. Mass Overseer here. Serral's got to be up. He's got 9 Overseers in this game. Scarlett has 3 Overseers. That Overseer advantage, RoachRavager. Roach is coming up here on the left side. Roach Hydra Lurker versus Roach Lurker Overseer. Roach Hydra, RoachRavager Vipers. Vipers can bring some Blinding Cloud, can abduct some Lurkers here. RoachRavager, look at this Ravager, okay. Lurkers here. This is the fourth base, which is effectively a third base. There's no third base here for Scarlett. Main base is mining out. Main base mined out for both players, RoachRavager. RoachRavager Vipers, Blinding Cloud on these Lurkers. RoachRavager, Corrosive Bile. Corrosive Bile, the Lurkers are coming up. All the army is here for Serral. Corrosive Bile and the army, RoachRavager. Roach is coming up. +2, +2 upgrades for both players. Corrosive Bile needs to be perfect here. Blinding Cloud on the RoachRavager. Scarlett GG's, and that's the game. Serral wins. Thank you, Goomba, for the RoachRavager. 27 months of RoachRavager. Hello, Chibi Miharu. Hello. Oh, man.